Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donal Cunningham, and this is Radio Fun, a War Stories talk. I'd like to also thank John Holgate for, as ever, pushing the boundaries on hard act to follow. Thanks, John. Also, somebody... there we go. I have been a Unix sysadmin for far too long, and these days I'm working as a network engineer on the data center side of the house, but in previous jobs I've been the designated point of contact for the field engineering team that was handling a lot of the licensed microwave radios, and a lot of the things in this talk come from that. But I'm assuming you're all familiar with the different ground-based and air-based network types. Nothing on this slide should be a surprise to anyone. That said, many of the people in this room are wise and wonderful people, and I wish that was mirrored across all of society, but sometimes people do the dumbest things. But it's all right, you can train people, and in particular, when somebody was drilling bollards in a business park in Cork, they were drilling bollards, and that was fine, and they drilled right through the main fibre. Why? Because if you remember from John's talk, that 350 mils down, yeah, bollards need to go down a little bit deeper than that, and we've had as much fun with bollards as he's had with fence posts. So we sent down the diagrams, we sent down the way the cable was routed, we sent this all down to the contractor who was doing it. And that was lovely, and that was Thursday. We sent everything, we couriered everything down on Friday. There you go, there's everything you need to make sure it never happens again. Can you guess what happened the following Tuesday? Yep, right through the main fibre again. And it actually got to the point where the customer we were servicing in that business park, we were talking to them later, and they said, no, it's cool, we know what to do now. Anytime the internet goes, everybody rushes to the window and looks for a man in a van. Thing of beauty. But, to be serious for a moment, though, this is the enemy. Because all it takes is one muppet driving one of these to really fuck up your day. Jeez, Mick, I don't know. Some of these wires are fierce thin. And it's important, as you can see, we try and keep things. There are people outside, some of our lovely, some of the sponsors and presenters here, Laser 2000, will talk to you a lot about fibre scopes and scopes inspections and why it's important to, have good procedures around handling fibre. And then there was the day I was in a nameless data center with a nameless engineer, and he said, I think all this stuff about fibres really, it's all just rubbish. Sure, I just do this. And he reached in, unplugged an SC connector, and rubbed it on his jumper in front of me before putting it back into the piece of equipment. Because some people are very special indeed. Now, I know that a lot of you have, it's a world of standards and metrics, and there is a metric which some of you may not be familiar with, depending on how much you've had to work with data centers before. And this is a new standard which I'm proposing today. It's called the MTTB. And if you're not sure what that might be, it stands for mean time to bucket. Because we have webcams in the data center. We're looking at the webcams, and there's somebody working in the data center, and that's nice. And, we live in Ireland. It's a bit wet occasionally. And on this particular day, some of that wet decided to leak in through the roof of the data center and start dripping down on top of the racks in which the nice man was working. We were watching this going, that couldn't be. Oh yes, it could. And we rang the engineer in question and went, hi, can you have a look up on the top of the rack? Oh yeah. Yes, it is water falling from the ceiling. All right, could you go and tell someone about that right now, please? Okay, yeah, I'll go and do that now. And we started the timer. Shortly afterwards, a number of people from the data center came in and stood like this. And they nodded a lot. And we're shouting at the webcam going, yes, we can see it too. Get a mother-bothering bucket, for God's sake. And they went away. And at this point, the timer is ticking. And eventually someone else from the data center came back and looked up at the ceiling. At this point, we were apoplectic. But eventually, the nice person who was doing our work had put a floor tile on top of the rack to deflect the water down, away, and over the edge of the front of the rack and away from the equipment. But in the end, a bucket was deployed and a new metric was born. Remember, you heard it here first, MTTB, mean time to bucket. Because it's important to have good, sealing and environmental sealing, or else you get this. This is an outdoor electrical cabinet at an unnamed site. I don't know how well it shows up, but that is absolutely dripping with condensation. And I'm teaching my small children at the moment that some things go well together, like toast and peanut butter, but some things like electricity and water are a really bad mix. But this is a talk about radio fun, and this is the kind of environment we're talking about. Licensed microwave radios, bit of experience with them, but have very rarely had to do anything involving actual climbing. Of course, if you talk to the salespeople, they say that this photo is not an adequate representation and that you need something like this, with nice HDR, some glinting, the sun catching the bottom of the dishes. That's nice. Because when you're trying to pick out your individual cable which is misbehaving out of all of these things, standards, and the standards of wiring in particular, come to play. Now, I don't know if you can see on this, there's little yellow blobs along one of those tracks. And those little yellow blobs are for people just capping some of the holding points for the cables. And little things like this make a huge difference when you can go on site and go, yellow, yep. And a good radio company will help you with this and mean that besides giving you vertigo, you'll be able to actually chase your cable all the way up to the top. It's all about line of sight, and this is a typical view over Dublin, and a lot of the time you'll send out people to you'll do a desk survey that says, there should be line of sight, and then you'll send people out to go, And can mean anything from that roof, it has more asbestos than anybody wants to ever go near. Or in some cases, the building itself is listed, and I imagine John and his team might have some experience with, you want to drill what now? But it's all about line of sight, and you get a good view of certain things. This would be typical of the kind of equipment that you'd get. And you'd do an awful lot of steel work. The last place I worked, half the damn warehouse was steel bars, threaded rod, and a number of things. And it's all about the steel work. And in particular, you have to be quite careful about sealing things. You have to use special sort of copper grease, because if at some point you want to be able to take something off the mast, then you need to make sure it hasn't seized, and things like marine coating become very important. And you get to see some lovely parts of the world. It's an exotic location. You get to see, impressive facilities that are obviously, hermetically sealed within an inch of their lives. But you have to remember this slide? This is the Saggart Hill high site, and this is how it welcomes you. But wait, there's more. My boss went up to the high site one day and found a dead horse at the entrance to it, and arrangements had to be made with Quilcha, the forestry people, to get it moved. Of course, people think, Ireland's a temperate country. You'd never get conditions like this. That's going up to Capure high site. Or this, we call this one Sad Henrik in Snow. Or this waiting for you at the gate. A hammer is a vital piece of equipment in your rigger's arsenal. This is Mount Leinster, which is a lovely part of Ireland. People don't think that you get this kind of conditions, but when you're talking about wind meters being blown off the masts at Truskmore, which is just outside Sligo, this is a lovely condition. This is Ireland. Incidentally, those radio links are still working. You'd be amazed what you can actually put up with and still have some usable signal left. Can you tell which way the wind was blowing? And then if you have to keep it, you have to maintain your dishes, and a good radio company will keep an eye on things and visually survey things, or else you'll get the radome, the skin off the front of the dish, cracking, and the dish buckling a little bit, or quite a bit, or in some cases, the skirt falling off completely. That link was still transmitting. It was only picked up on a visual survey. Over-engineering for the win. Now, of course, there was another site where they were having issues in Carlow Town, and they couldn't work out what was going on until they took the age-old tradition of sitting someone in a chair on the roof. And then they realised that there was a laundry halfway between the two buildings that were being linked, and when they opened a particular window, a cloud of steam billowed up and attenuation occurred. And then sometimes you send someone up the mast and they go, "Hey Darcy, can you see what the problem is?" Yeah, I think I can see. I'm going to send you a picture. And you find out that someone's built a bloody Ferris wheel in the middle. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the brief Radio Fun Talk. I think my time is up. Thank you very much indeed.